and Sebastián. Hey, congratulations on getting into the writers program for NBCU launch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So how does it feel being selected into this program?
Kind of insane because they tell you that there's like 2,000 or something applicants and that only 8 people get selected. So then you realize that the numbers are kind of wild, but it feels great.
Yeah, it feels really validating, especially because, growing up as a Latino in New York, in Queens, we don't really have pipelines into the industry like this. And I know for myself, I've applied to this program multiple times. So to finally like get in, it's very validating, and it's also encouraging as an artist to like keep going and that you're doing something right.
Now, for those people who don't know, what exactly is this writers program all about that you know?
Yeah, it's less about I guess it's kind of workshop focused, right? Like you meet twice a week and you have workshops, and it's a lot about kind of figuring out who you are as a writer and as an individual. So we do everything from like figuring out our personal log line to then also going and meeting with showrunners to kind of prep you for staffing in a room.
Yeah, it's really comprehensive, I would say. The minute we started, we just jumped right into learning how to talk about ourselves. I thought for me that was like the most valuable part of the program, was learning how to pitch myself as a writer. And also, I think the biggest thing I took away from the program was like everything that I was taught to hide and to be ashamed of growing up, as like a queer, indigenous, immigrant, Latino person. All those things I'm now embracing and honoring and bringing that into my writing, and that's what like separates me from everybody else and makes me special and valuable.
Now for the both of you, what's this applying for this writers program? Did it feel like a contest, or did it feel like a job interview to you?
That's
I would say both.
Yeah, because it's so
Yeah.
stressful. It's like when you get the notification that you've made it to the semifinals, you're like, holy shit, I made it. But you know that a bunch of other people also made it. So you're like, all right, I gotta make this interview like good. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely felt amazing being, chosen for the next round and the next round. So it did feel kind of like a game show contest,
Yeah.
like, okay, I made it.
A Squid Game.
Yeah, like a Squid
Right.
Games. And it's kind of nerve-wracking too, because you want to make sure that you're always bringing your A game and you're bringing the best about yourself, and that you're evolving your story, as a writer to the next meeting and to the next level.
Now, could you for both of you give us a little bit of background about yourselves, because one of the things that these writers programs also delve upon is the selection for diversity and unique voices. What do you bring to the table? Obviously, I think Sebastián kind of talked about it a little bit about his background.
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about it. I was raised in between like Texas and Mexico, and growing up, I realized I did enjoy writing, but I didn't think that I could do it for a living. So when I went to the University of Texas at Austin, I studied journalism, realized I was kind of not ready to do that like for my career. So I moved out to LA, did a couple of internships, and landed in a mailroom at an agency. And that landscape is very, very white. And there was no one who looked like me. And I was I was not sure that I could do what these writers were doing. I thought that a lot of these writers were just like people who came from backgrounds that weren't like mine. So I was just hesitant to fully pursue it. And then it took having a job at a production company to see that I could actually pursue this. But yeah, it was a lengthy process into kind of convincing myself that I could pursue being a TV writer.
And Sebastián, go for it.
Yeah, similar to what Helen said, I think, our backgrounds, we're such a convoluted way to how we got to the industry today. So I think like what we bring is our unique perspectives, our lived experiences, coming from this place of like scarcity, and like how we really fought and really went above the obstacles to really achieve our goals and our dreams. For myself, I was born in Ecuador and raised in New York City. And, my whole life I fell in love with entertainment and fell in love with movies and TV. Those are the things that helped me like assimilate and become American. And so I definitely bring this like perspective of an immigrant in the diaspora, trying to always like reconnect with his roots. And you know, it's not only my Latino heritage, but it's also my indigenous heritage as well. And for me, bringing all those things to the surface is really important to me. And bringing that to my writing. And I think another part of our unique perspectives is like, for me, I would love to give the Hollywood treatment to diverse characters, people that I grew up with, you know, also like work in a lot of the folklore that my elders talked to me about when I was young, you know, and I want to bring that heritage that I have from my home country and to my roots and bring it to the mainstream, because I feel like it's not just me with this perspective. There are, you know, millions and of other Latinos, immigrants, indigenous people, queer people that have similar stories.
Well, excellent. Yeah, I know. My goddaughter is from Ecuador, so
Oh, cool.
she's in university in Pennsylvania, so she's pretty excited about you know, her education here in the United States. So why do both of you want to pursue you know, a career in entertainment?
Well, going off of
Mm.
what Sebas was kind of talking about just now, it's kind of giving the underrepresented voices a chance up on the screen. I
Mhm.
grew up with people who looked like me, and it made me kind of ashamed of who I was as a Mexican person. And I'd like to just see myself up on screen. I like to see like my friends, my group of friends. I think that media holds such like a huge amount of power in society, and I think that it definitely can help shape it. So if I can do some good in that sense and tell stories that matter to me, and yeah, just give people a look at what life is like for us. And yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. This industry wasn't made for people like us. You know, we have to really knock down the doors and pave our own way. And a lot of times when I make short films and I put my own story up on the screen, it's crazy how many people come up to me after and they're like, wow, like that really touched me, or like I really resonated with that. And you don't think about that like while you're making it. You just want to tell your story and tell a cool story on the screen. But then you realize like as a viewer, all the things that you feel for all the other shows and movies that you see, you're giving that to somebody else. And it's very much uh it's almost like an honor, right, Helen, to like be in a place where we can kind of adjust and we can make those changes and we can and make sure that like, oh, this story, maybe we can introduce a Latino character, or we can introduce some heritage, or we can make this, for me, like this person queer or indigenous or whatever. You know, that for me is something that I'm always conscious about in the room that I'm in. And eventually that made me feel like, oh wow, like that's like a secret power that I have in my room, because nobody else has a similar experience to me. So I'm bringing that in. And it's almost like that's my responsibility to my people, you know, to my tribes, that I want to make sure they're heard and seen, and give that feeling to the next like generation.
And without us, it's like there sometimes isn't a Latino person in a writer's room, and you don't see those characters up on that show. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so simple. Like it's so simple when you sit in the room and you're like, yes, this person could be Latino. No, you don't have to make anything different. Like they could just be Latino.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and having that power, like Seba said, is just, it's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me, like by just suggesting it in the room, and
Mhm.
you know, like everyone's like, oh yeah, why not? That's great. And, you know, and there you go. Like if without those 10 seconds of your suggestion, that person or identity would never be on screen, right? And like now we've infused that, so it's really special.
Can you say what projects you have participated in so far, in which writers room?
Sebas was the first person to get staffed in the
Yeah,
program.
yeah, right. I'm so grateful for being staff right now. I'm on a UCP show called The Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy, and it's going to be on Peacock next year.
Wow, that's actually pretty awesome. So thus so far, what have you learned in being part of this program that you definitely will take away with?
I liked what
This,
Sebas said earlier. about just like embracing who you are and
Mhm.
the things that you used to hide. You don't have to hide them. You have to use them like a superpower. I didn't get to mention that I'm staffed on this new Reba pilot called Happy's Place, where the main character is Latina, and it feels great that I can take everything that I've learned from the program into this room, and it just directly applies.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know she was Latina in the film. That's amazing. In the show. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
For me, it's yeah, exactly that. And I think it's the feeling of we belong here and like it's our time. And that feeling of like we belong here. For so long, I always felt when I was in a space where I'm on set or I'm on a Hollywood project, because before this I used to be an assistant to Jennifer Lopez at New Yorican, and you'd be surprised how little people of color are on set and that perspective. And I always felt like I don't belong here. But now with this program, it made me feel like, yeah, like I need to be here. You know what I mean? And that is just one of the most powerful things I felt for myself and for my art.
Now, both of you represent an interesting group of people into the business. Let's first being Latino itself, because in the past few years or past decades, Latino representation has been fairly limited. Except for the past few years, it has been increasing tremendously. Left and right. How do you feel about that? And do you think the struggles is still there?
Yeah, I think we have such a long way to go. I really admire like how the Black community has pushed creatives forward and kind of just been so supportive of their own community. I feel like I can see that for Latinos. But I don't know. I feel like, yeah, we have um gotten better, but I just feel like there's just such a long way to go. And it's good because there are these programs that are gonna help with that.
Yeah, I think we definitely have a long way to go, but it's nice to finally see that the doors are opening for us more and more and more studios and more big companies are asking for Latino content. They're asking for women centered stories. They're asking for indigenous stories, Black stories, like Asian stories. Like they're asking for all this diversity now. And I love that we're at the forefront of it. And, it's still challenging because, many times I go to meetings still and they're like, oh, it's a little bit too Latino.
Oh no,
Right
he'll be
in.
back. He'll be back.
Sure. Okay. So Helen, as I was going to basically mention, was you also represent the other side of the group where you talk about representing the younger generation in this industry. And how has your experience thus so far representing as a young writer? Do you feel that there's obstacles or people are very open-minded?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it depends on the audience. It depends on the people you're working with. I think that there could be adults who are very open to the kind of ideas that we bring to the table, but there is also a lot of hesitation. Like millennials get such a bad rap. Like we are just hated by the Gen Zers and by the boomers, but we have a lot to offer. And I feel like it's nice to just I don't know, take a little bit of both generations and do what you can. It's at the end of the day, it's like we're all just human beings. So it translates, like our generation has similarities to Gen Z and the boomers, and it's nice to be able to represent and hopefully have like a positive representation. And yeah, it's nice to be considered young. So
Well said. Sebastian, since you just came back on, you want to go ahead and wrap up your last thought about being a Latino.
Yeah, sorry about that. What I was saying is, yeah, we still have a challenge. We have a long way to go. It's finally nice for us to have the doors open for us. But I think, as a Latino culture, we're not a monolith, and there are several different varieties of Latino, and what that means for different people. The culture is very different. So I think that just means we need to have more opportunities for the different kinds of Latino creatives that are out there, because we all should be seen in one way or another on screen. And the other thing, you know, there have been those studies done about how the Latino market is one of the most dominating viewers on streaming, and they're the only ones that go to theaters, but the content is not reflective of the audience, you know? So I think it's up to us to finally like change that, make that shift. And as we have more diversity in the rooms, I think we will see more of those things in the writing and in the movies and TV that we are consuming.
Most excellent. And I already asked Helen about this question. So since you just logged on, I'm going to repeat the question because you represent, you know, the younger generation in this industry, and the younger generation seems, with their voice, seem to face obstacles sometimes. How do you feel about representing, you know, a different generation into the entertainment industry?
One of the things I love writing about is transgenerational experiences and forgiveness. You know, I love writing about older generations coming to terms with culture and identity, for example. And so for me, it's really important to kind of create stories where we give tools almost to an older generation to kind of understand the new culture. And I think it's like up to us to really, you know, make that scene. And it's an honor, you know, really to like represent our generation. You know, the same thing when I'm in rooms, sometimes the writers are older than I am, you know, and so I feel like I'm the young one, but even though we're in our 30s, you know, there's a whole other generation before us that we're kind of like teetering on the edge. But I think like we as artists, but also like consumers of the art and the culture, we are always like seeing, and we're up to date, and we're like bringing everything we can to the room and to the screen.
Well said. Well, let me wrap it up with one last question. Since you're already part of this program for you know, the NBCU launch TV Writers Program, but in the end, is this your end goal, is to be a TV writer, or you want to do something else down the road, perhaps like producing or directing or doing films or something, or maybe you want to be a showrunner someday? What is the end goal for yourself in your head?
A lot of the writers in these, like in our program at least, we all want to be showrunners, which is so cool to see. We all have aspirations to be showrunners, and I think it's an amazing opportunity. I definitely want to do it. I love producing and I love directing, and I think that just writing is such an amazing like art form that once you do it, you can just go ahead and like do it all kind of. It's like, I'm going to go write and then I can also produce and direct. It's just a matter of time. And hopefully as those doors keep opening, like we can also, you know, pull people up with us and just keep uplifting other people who want to do, you know, this thing that seems like so big, but it's like honestly, all it is just like having the opportunity to do it.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, I've always wanted to direct ever since I was a kid. I've always said I want to be a director. I want to be a director, even though I didn't know what it meant yet. For me, it's very important to continue on that path. I love TV, and writing on TV was an awesome way to get my way in. And I'm learning so much, and there's so much I still have to learn and grow. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. But my end goal would be to direct and write features. Love to do that and be a showrunner as well. Just create my own stories and give them exactly that, the Hollywood treatment.
Well said to the both of you. Helen, Sebastián, thank you very much for carrying this conversation. Congratulations for the NBCU launch TV Writers Program. All we can say is, you know, it's the future is yours. So this is just your first step into that journey. So congratulations.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time.